I have never been more distracted trying to make a video. That's crazy. Okay, so sorry about the last two if you guys were on and they got cut off. I'm not giving up on making this video. So this video was one that I avoid making for a long time, not because I didn't feel like it was something important. It's definitely not the reason. But the reason why was because it's a very, very sensitive topic, and I'm not like a clinical psychologist, and my little bit of psychology in the Western world that I've taken is not adequate to really, I think, fully address from a clinical standpoint the issue of rape and molestation. But at the same time, as a educator and as a person that has dealt with this and has had this come up and obviously has lived portions of this, whether in my own experience or in experiences with friends and family, I just don't take it as something lightly. So I guess that's why it's been something that hasn't come up a lot on this channel. But I think now, and being in this time period and having to move in the positive direction as a people, I think it's something that we should definitely discuss. Give me a second. I'm going to try and remove the previous post so that people who may be trying to watch or engage. Oh, and I want to also state that this is something that obviously is going to require some engagement, because I'm not going to sit up here and give you know, a bunch of personal experience and neglect or not deal with that need within our own community. And I don't expect people to type, you know, paragraphs about their personal experiences in these comments. But if you do have questions and or you want to throw stuff out there, like, I would really appreciate it, because it kind of gives me a direction and lets this video kind of cover some things. So I think the biggest issue for me with this particular topic and most of the questions that, or the undertone of what I've heard or what I've had conversations about, is the why. And the why, I think, is the toughest question. Like, okay, why would God allow this, or why would Yah allow this to happen to me, or why would Yah allow this to happen to these people, or why would Yah allow this to be a function? So I'm going to give you the first why, and the first why has to do with a primitive evil that exists within this realm that has also been invited into the human experience through Adam and Yahuah. And however you understand first man and first woman is not what we're going to get into here, but there was a primitive evil that had been introduced into the human experience that now is perpetuating and continues to grow and is a part of how we exist now. The reason why, I have a couple of things that I wrote down. So the reason why sexual abuse is prevalent in our society is because of the lack of Torah. And I know that's hard for people, because the last thing that people who are non-religious or non-biblical, and I'm really talking to everybody in this, but definitely to my sisters as well, is because they believe that somehow it is God's job to not only create the rules, but also to make sure that even those who don't want to follow his rules then have to. And so I want to put out that whole idea of freedom of choice. There is a freedom of choice in individuals to follow Yah. Remember, we don't get to choose our consequence, but we do get to make choices. But the reason why sexual abuse is prevalent in our societies even today is because of a lack of Torah. Not just by this society, but as Hebrews, also by our ancestors. part of being outside of a society that keeps Torah is there will be lawlessness. And as a nation, there is not lawlessness. As a people, we are traumatized. And I'm saying that because we also don't uphold Torah in our homes. And I'm not saying people who are keeping Torah. I'm talking about as a people of color, and specifically in the so-called Black or African American home. Torah is not upheld. I'll give you a Torah that easily negates easily deals with the idea of molestation in the home. Most grandparents or most older people are very cognizant of those who have either raped or have the tendency to be that person in their own homes. I'm saying this because the statistic is that I think most women who are raped or molested, it happens by a close relative. This is very, very, very true. And the statistic of women who are raped and molested is so high because of this. I think it's something as between 1 in 3 and 1 in 5 of all women have experienced some type of sexual abuse. That number is way too damn high when the number of people who are doing it are close relatives, which means that there is a system set up in a lot of homes that are not practicing Torah of generational rape and molestation that is being covered up. I know this sounds sick because even saying it is sickening, but the reason why this is a propagated practice within people of within homes, and especially with people of color, is because of the oppressive system that we were carried into because of our negligence of Yah's law, statutes, and commandments. We were carried into a system where rape and abuse was prevalent. Exactly. I just saw a comment came up, and literally, that is my whole point. You have the same person repeating the offense, and then most of the time, the people in the family know. The reason why is because of mental trauma. And mental trauma runs so deep, and so many conversations happen around the topic of rape and molestation, never getting down to the mental trauma that is caused through generations of people. If you were told, let's say a grandmother, that telling on this person would cause this, and doing this would do this. This is going to tear up our family. This is going to do this. You're strong. I've dealt with it. You can deal with it. Like, these are really the conversations that are coming up. Or I'm just not going to say anything because internally, if that person was also my molester or rapist, then I am still the one who is being psychologically, I guess, held captive by the power that that person had, instead of getting rid of the power. Let me give you the Torah solution before we even keep talking. 1, rape and molestation is death. That's the remedy for that. It's very easy. You die. Like, this whole idea that I hear in these camps, oh, you rape a woman, you gotta marry her, that's bullshit. Like, I'm not even gonna sit up and entertain something like that because it's not what scripture teaches. Yah does not teach rape. He does not teach molestation. Yah is not a pervert. Yah is not wicked. Yah does not have the heart of man to justify these behaviors. Now, there is the idea of 2 young people or 2 people who join in premarital sex, and it doesn't always end in death, which is also something that we're not told in scripture. It's like, oh, anybody who was having sex and wasn't married was put to death. Sometimes they had to marry the person because Yah does not believe that a rapist, a person with a heart to take the chastity and innocence away from someone, then that person should be joined to that person in marriage. It's not how it's not how that works at all. Okay, so that is the remedy for Yah for that particular behavior. Okay, there's no special place and several wives for a man who's like, oh, if I just can rape a bunch of women, I can have 12 wives. Come on, like, we really need to do better in our thinking and how we rationalize how Yah deals with certain things. We, as a people, I saw a comment that literally says, like, the buck stops here. As a people of color, predominantly, and I think it happens in every group, but mainly as people of color and people who are experiencing trauma. This happens because nobody stops and says, no, this is not going to be me. I also want to not just put this burden on all parents because there's some people who just don't know. And I know there are parents out there who have had things happen. It was like, I just didn't know. And when I found out, I did something about it. But yet and still, as a people, and I'm not just talking about for women. So if there are males who are listening, this is not a conversation that is just is singular to women. It also happens to men, and how it is perpetuated for men and women. For women, it literally it comes in, shows up in the ways of promiscuity, rejection of men, leading to alternative lifestyles, being a homosexual lifestyle, a lesbian lifestyle, or a completely celibate lifestyle for that matter. Or they search for, they're not completely damaged, and they look for a man who is supposed to, and if you looked at my past video, have sex responsibly, that is supposed to repair or remedy, the wounds. Then that man is also ill-equipped because he probably came from a family who did not know how to properly show love and affection, which then puts two relatively broken people together, which also continues that person to suppress their feelings and perpetuates the cycle. In a man, it shows up in two forms. Men, normally, it shows up in the form of either promiscuity, where it's almost like a rite of passage. I've heard lots of men tell me like, oh, my 17-year-old babysitter, I had sex with her when I was 10, or I was having sex at 12, so it shows up in those forms. The reason why in scripture promiscuity and homosexuality and other things were dealt with in a way that may seem very, very harsh to our culture is because those things are then perpetuated. The reason why sexual abuse is perpetuated is because it goes unchecked. It goes and it's swept under the rug. It goes and it ends up being that person then doing that to someone else, which then continues a cycle of brokenness within a community. I saw somebody said, is it possible to pass down trauma of rape and molestation from generation to generation? Yes, which was my next point. Literally, I saw a sister type, like, I don't trust men around my children. It's so easy to pass it down, just like it's easy to pass down stigmas and other generational curses. For instance, as mothers, and I think mothers who have been in a situation they've been molested or raped, or even made to feel uncomfortable, or even been in uncomfortable situations, you are very hypercritical of every male that comes into your space, especially if you have children, and especially if their children are daughters. We tend to overanalyze or microanalyze every situation. We don't like to leave our children alone. We often don't even trust our children with our spouses because of the close proximity of the relationship in which we had with the people who molested us. We do these things because it is passed down generationally. And so, but by doing these, we feel like we're equipping our offspring or the children around us with the tools to navigate through situations where molestation and rape are very prevalent. Yet we don't remove the rapist or the molester from the lives of our children because they're family. And as a family, we also believe, oh, that person was had some things go on too, so we don't do away with family. One of the things that I learned when I came into Torah is that the only family you have are the people who keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. I don't care if you're my blood sister and we talk every day. If you don't keep the law, statutes, and commandments, then I don't trust you with my children because you don't hold the same values and the same requirements for my children. It's just like, it's tough. Like, and I'm gonna be very just transparent. I saw this, like, I don't even leave anybody with my husband. I know people who have been raped and been molested or been in those uncomfortable situations who literally like get anxiety after they've left their kids at home with male or female. It could be a male leaving his kids home with his wife, or a wife leaving his kids home with her husband. Literally get anxiety come into a house because they know that if they saw or experienced something similar to what they experienced, that they don't know how they would handle it. I know so many people who literally have had parents or authority figures catch situations that were inappropriate and then just let them carry out. And that to me is probably one of the worst, because I think we are ill-equipped as a people on how to deal with those things, and a lot of stuff is swept under the rug as oh, these are just kids, or kids are just curious, or this is just that. So I want to add something to that, where it's worse now, because all of these subliminal messages and movies and cartoons and music are perpetuating a heightened sense of sexuality within our children. And so if that goes unchecked, then what would have been just seen as what we would have just dismissed in a previous time as exploration, if that's even a thing, is now literally these kids being told how and when and what way to carry out these sexual urges that are being prematurely placed into them by music, society, culture, and television. So I feel like if any parents are like, oh, that's not this or that's not that, I think even now is a time to be more guarded of the things that our children are watching and participating in. I'm going back and just reading a couple of things. Literally, family members being protected by other family members. It is literally a thing. And when you bring it up in a family, it's almost like you're trying to tear the whole family apart, when literally what you're trying to do is heal. Which moves me into my next point. Your healing as an individual is more important than your relationship with your family. And I know that sounds like very, very harsh and very, very insensitive. But so many people who have been put in positions of molestation and rape, or any of those positions, are so busy trying to cover up or trying to hold together their family, or not trying to be shunned by their family, or afraid of being called a liar, or no, this person wouldn't do this. What did you do to make that person feel like it was okay to do that? Anytime any of those things come up, immediately think of the importance of yourself and your mental health first. Because as a people and as humans, we have the tendency to compartmentalize hurts and trauma into places that will later show up in other ways, which puts us in the place of perpetuating those same behaviors, or creating how do you put it? Like, we become so traumatized that in our traumatization, we also traumatize our children who haven't even experienced those same things. In our protection, we can also be we can be hurtful of those who are not even in that mindset. Like, we can start to place those thoughts into our children's head and yet still take away their innocence in trying to protect them. I think that's what I was trying to say. Okay, let me go back. I was reading another one. And literally, like, Torah is the reason why this thing is perpetuated over and over and over and over and over again. The reason why it's perpetuated over and over and over again is because of not keeping Yah's laws, statutes, and commandments. By not doing that, we don't have a governor for how we're supposed to handle these situations, and we tend to handle them in our own strength. And our own strength is not adequate to get through a lot of these things. Also, for a lot of people who are still broken by them, it's a burden that we carry because we are not giving it to Yah and not assessing properly why, how, and then what happens next, because vengeance is Yah's. And for us to hold on to hurt, trauma, and other things, and not give it to Yah for him to deal with, and literally find the correct ways to and find the correct ways to heal them is dangerous. And I saw somebody just put up that I'm stirring up feelings, and I've been there. Like, I literally, for me, it was the close family, and it wasn't even an adult in the sense of an adult, but I was about five, and I'll just share because if I'm stirring up feelings, then I will also share mine. I was about 5, and the person was about 16 or 17, and literally was forced to orally copulate this individual. And I said all that to say I didn't remember this literally until I was about 16, and it came slamming on me like a ton of bricks. Like, I had a perfectly what I thought was normal childhood, but then as I began to reflect on, like, not wanting, when I was going through puberty, not wanting to grow breasts, or not wanting people to look at me, or feeling like objectified all the time, and then it would make me cringe when guys would say, "Oh, you're a pretty little girl," and I'm like, that makes me feel uncomfortable. And I even remember going through a phase where like, I didn't even like, I couldn't remember it, but I would, like, date guys, and I was very, very conservative through a lot of my life, and I would date guys and wouldn't realize, like, why certain ways they would look at me or certain ways they would touch me would make me feel extremely uncomfortable. And so what I'm saying is, when you don't deal with it, you don't understand why. Like, even after I was married, it would feel weird to feel certain ways, and so that's like, we internalize that trauma, which also goes on to sometimes ruin other relationships, and we don't even know why those relationships fall apart. We don't understand why, when we are in relationships and we tell a man, "You're not protecting me," and they don't understand what the hell you're talking about. But literally, it's that feeling of never having protection. And a lot of that comes from an additional curse, which is not having fathers in the home. A lot of these things wouldn't take place with fathers who are active in their children's lives. But because of the curses that were placed upon us and the ways our families were torn apart during slavery and throughout history, we don't have fathers. We don't have that male figure, because having a male figure, if you survey Torah, the Aleph, or the strong leader, guarded the door of the house, which meant that nobody was coming in that was perpetuating these behaviors, because he was the one to check it at the gate. Second thing is not having men who are in control of their homes. And I'm not talking about in a form of oppressive control, but I'm talking about a form of control where your wife doesn't run you, and when you see something that's wrong and you say something about it, that's that, period. Like, period. And vice versa. If you have a spouse, if your wife feels uncomfortable with your friends or with people you bring around, and men are so service in relationships, it's no fault to them, but it should be something that is listened to. I'm gonna go back and read some more. Sorry about my little cold. I am in a hot place, and you have to be freezing cold inside to not die, but then it's hot when you go outside, like literally 120 degrees, so it's messing me up. And this one sister said, being a mother lion, like, my mom and myself both have that, being lionesses about your den. Like, at the end of the day, it is our jobs to protect our children and protect the future generation. Literally, somebody else mentioned that they had blocked it out and it kind of came back. It's that time where your brain is starting to process and reprocess things. Literally, I didn't know. When somebody said that they didn't know, they struggled to process it, I didn't know if it was something that had happened, or if I had thought it up, or if I had dreamed it up. I didn't even know if it was a reality. Like, I felt like I was in a fog. And then finally I was able to talk about it. I met a woman who now runs a foundation for young girls, and she probably doesn't even know to this day, like, literally having somebody to talk to helped. I don't think at the time, she was probably younger herself, she wasn't equipped to understand how I should handle it, or even if I should bring it up, because I don't know if she had experienced trauma of her own. But being able to talk about it and let myself know that it was a reality really did help me. It took a long time to really process through all of the things and even some of the behaviors that I exhibited as an adult and as a teenager that came from that. But as I did, it really gave me a better perspective of my level of protection over my children and how to deal with those emotions myself. That whole idea of being taught to love, that is a Christian, slave, oppressive truth lie taught in order to keep us in Stockholm Syndrome to our masters. We are not called to love those who kill, rape, molest, and torture people, because one, you wouldn't have to love them because they would be dead. So trying to garnish the feelings that, and probably some of the only feelings that we understand as love for these people is not realistic. Those people should not be allowed around you or your family. They are as good as dead to you is really the reality of how that should be handled. The next thing is loving someone and being involved with them are two different things. Even family members who have allowed these things to happen and are wondering why we don't just get over it, like those people are also a poison to your life, because it's a perpetual reminder of a time when you were not protected. And for me, it made it really difficult when I was exploring my relationship with Abba, with Yah, to really feel protected by a father figure or a male because of how I felt about males. And so following laws, statutes, commandments weren't tough, but understanding that they were done through love was something that it took me a really long time to really fully understand and embrace. Let's see. And then, like, for those of us who have been left with pieces, like literally giving things away to Yah is the most important move in that situation, allowing them to be released. Because the reason why I put womb trauma is because it literally traumatizes a place inside of us that literally will later manifest in our children. We carry so much in our womb and in other parts of us that are important that my kids right here. Close the door, please. Can you close it, please? Now. Carrying those things, energy is transferred. And I know that's hard because I haven't really explained that a lot on the channel, but the energy that we experience and the trauma that we experience is transferred to our children. Wow. And and a lot of us who literally fibroids, it's a really good point. Yes, 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 yes. And a lot of us have taken, I have a really, is a really sweet girl that we all know. And not we all, but in my family. And she is literally, to be politically correct, is caught up in human trafficking. And literally the reason why is because of a situation where she was forced to, or raped at a very early age, and literally continued in that very sick situation in order to protect her siblings. And at the same time ended up going into human trafficking in order to provide money so that the mother would not allow the people or the person that was raping her to then come in and do the same to her children. So I'm not saying that there are not various situations, but I'm saying that a lot of the suppressed the suppressed ideologies lead to other behavior. I saw somebody said there are rape examples in the Bible, and I'm going to give you the one that most people think is rape, and I'm going to challenge you heavily to go back and study and to read this in Hebrew. Dinah was not raped, and I'm making an emphatic statement because I can do so, because it's in Hebrew. I'm also going to make another statement because I know there's a follow-up statement to that, and that statement is, I read in the book of Jasher, I read in this book that this is exactly what happened, and this is why this was carried out. I'm going to challenge you to compare those stories, to compare what was said, and to compare the Hebrew language, and to compare the attitude of Jacob in the Torah story and the attitude of Jacob in, I believe it's either Jubilees or Jasher, where one story says that Jacob was upset, and that's literally why two of the sons don't get a birthright, which carries a theme. And the other story said that he was happy that he did that, but then it doesn't give any validity to why he takes away or is ashamed at how his two sons embarrass Yah. I'm going to really, really challenge you to look at that, because Dinah is a very, very prevalent story that is used as a person who's getting raped is now going to have to go with their rapist. Okay, so if you haven't seen the video or watched any of my podcasts, you might have to do a little bit of research. That is not a argument that can be made for a woman being raped and then it being okay, and Yah saying it's okay, and then our culture confirming that it's okay. That's not true. So I need people to stop using the Bible to perpetuate or to promote perversion. It's not a book of perversion. If there is perversion, it's used as an example in order to tell us how to deal with perversion. But if it's not handled in the way that the first 5 books says it should be handled, then that is not Torah. I don't want to leave us let this be our last conversation. I'm going to share my email because I've also worked through this. My way is not everybody else's way. It's not as simple as like literally having to work through it and live and deal with it. And but the reason why I did share is because so many people feel like they're useless, or they don't have, Yah can't use them, or there's not a place, or there's not healing. And I'm just presenting myself as one example of a person who has gone through it and who has experienced healing and is not afraid to share my experience and my story and not opening up that door, because it can be a hindrance in your relationship with Abba if it's not dealt with, because there's too many questions on why, as an Almighty, you haven't come and done these things at this time. And so to be able to work through that, understand the why, and understand the deeper situation that we've been placed in, is very, 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 very important. I also, let me in my email. So my email is Huldah Daoud, HULDAH DAUID at herroyalroots.com, and you can email me. What I do ask is that you be patient, because it takes me a long time to get through to emails, and I want you to know I don't normally say this because I feel like it should be inherent, because we are in this culture of family and faith and trust and truth. But anything that's shared with me is not something that's shared with somebody else, and it's not kept. Like when people share things with me about relationships or stuff, like I know some people just need to get it out. It needs to be out there, and so I'm very cognizant of that. But a lot of those emails, unless it's requested, or delete it, because sometimes it just needs to come out. It's something that you haven't talked about with other people, and it's something you probably will never talk about with a person that you actually know face to face. But as a person that really, really takes the healing of our women seriously, I am going to open that door. So my email is Huldah, HULDAH DAUID at herroyalroots.com. And I do want to pray. I normally don't pray on my live stream, but when you open up doors and portals, I think it's very important that that's kind of addressed and then closed or sealed in a way that Abba can handle it. So I just want to thank you, Heavenly Father, for allowing us to have this discussion. I pray that somebody comes across this and just sees how important it is to lay our burdens and cast them upon you, because so many of us have been in positions where we were not able to make the choices for some of the things that have happened to us, and have been very, very traumatizing, and have driven a lot of our actions and emotions in our lives. And we ask that even when we were acting out because of our trauma, that you were merciful, that you are and were most merciful and gracious, and will look past that and really look towards healing us and putting people in our lives who are called by you to heal those wounds that were open, probably for some of us very, very young. We ask that you heal our communities and our families, and continue to call us back to Torah, because in Torah is where healing happens, and it allows us to enforce the rules and the laws that protect our families and our children and ourselves from the predator that is coming to steal the light that you have placed inside of us. Because really all of these actions are to take away from Yah's chosen in order to cripple them from being able to be the light of the world and the salt of the earth. We thank you for still being here, for still waking up many of us in the midst of our calamity, and showing us that it is you, and it has always been you that has been there to protect us. And as we come back to you, that you will do your do as you have said, and protect the future generations of our children through your word and through walking holy, circumspect, and set apart to your righteous path. Amen. All right, shalom, shalom. My kids have come in here at least twice, so I think they're ready to continue on with their Shabbat festivities. I really appreciate the people that listened in, and we'll definitely, this won't be the last time we have this conversation. All right, shalom, shalom.